Welcome back to Skytech-Lens. On November 1st, 2025, the world's longest undefended border became a line of economic division. A simmering trade dispute erupted when former President Trump announced a sweeping 10% tariff on Canadian goods, targeting key industries like aluminum and agriculture. In a dramatic move, Canada closed its border to non-essential trade and travel, signaling it would not accept what it saw as unfair measures. Prime Minister Mark Carney declared the border would stay restricted until the U.S. addressed the tariff's impact. This bold step shocked the international community, transforming a trade disagreement into a high-stakes standoff. For decades, goods and people flowed freely, but now the partnership is under immense strain. Canada's use of the border as leverage is a last-resort gamble, one that could force a quick resolution or deepen the divide. The following scenes will explore how this crisis unfolded and what it means for North America and the world. For over a century, the US and Canada were more than neighbors. They were economic partners, with supply chains so integrated that a single car might cross the border multiple times before reaching a customer. Trade between the two nations topped $700 billion annually, supporting millions of jobs. American farmers relied on Canadian markets, and Canadian energy powered US homes. Agreements like the USMCA made cross-border commerce predictable and stable. That stability is now shattered. The idea of the border as a barrier, not a bridge, was once unthinkable. Now, public confrontations and drastic measures threaten the very structure of this historic partnership. Businesses see the border as a political risk, and uncertainty has replaced trust. The unraveling of this deep partnership could reshape the continent's economic landscape for years to come. The crisis wasn't sparked by a trade violation but by a television ad. Ontario Premier Doug Ford launched a $54 million US ad campaign using edited clips of Ronald Reagan to argue against Trump's tariffs. The Reagan Foundation condemned the ad as fraudulent, and the White House saw it as a personal affront. Trump responded with immediate tariffs and suspended all trade talks with Ottawa. Prime Minister Carney quickly apologized, clarifying the ad didn't reflect national policy, and paused the campaign. But the damage was done. The apology couldn't reverse the tariffs or reopen negotiations. This episode shows how, in today's world, a single political miscalculation can trigger an international crisis. Ford's gambit backfired, escalating the dispute and leaving Canadian leaders scrambling. The fallout forced Canada to apologize for an action it didn't control, while facing severe economic consequences. The incident exposed the fragility of modern diplomacy. Now both nations are left to deal with the aftermath of a crisis sparked by a single ad. The border closure and suspended trade talks sent shockwaves through both economies. The automotive industry, reliant on just-in-time delivery, faced halted assembly lines as parts stopped flowing. American farmers lost access to Canadian markets, while Canadian producers saw profits evaporate under new tariffs. Small businesses, lacking resources to weather the storm, faced broken supply chains and closed markets. Even tech companies relying on cross-border talent were suddenly short-staffed. The uncertainty is as damaging as the tariffs themselves. Businesses can't plan, invest, or hire. Every decision is clouded by the risk of further escalation. This chilling effect threatens a broader economic slowdown, risking thousands of jobs and decades of progress. The trade war's impact is immediate, widespread, and deeply personal for workers and business owners alike. With its U.S. trade relationship frozen, Canada has pivoted rapidly toward Asia. High-level talks with China, Japan, and South Korea have accelerated, aiming to diversify trade and reduce dependence on the U.S. Engagement with China is especially significant, with discussions on technology, infrastructure, and natural resources. Chinese investment in Canadian ports and railways could open new routes to Asian markets, but also raises security concerns. Closer ties with China risk antagonizing Washington and dividing Canadian public opinion. Talks with Japan and South Korea offer a less controversial path to diversification. By strengthening ties through agreements like the CPTPP, Canada hopes to build resilient supply chains. But these new relationships can't quickly replace the scale of U.S. trade. Canada's pivot is a long-term strategy born of short-term necessity. Washington is alarmed by Canada's deepening talks with China. The US sees Chinese influence over Canadian infrastructure as a strategic threat, complicating defense and intelligence ties. Emergency meetings in the White House are considering tighter monitoring of Chinese investment and even sanctions on companies involved. Such moves would escalate tensions, punishing Canada for seeking alternatives. Trump's tariffs, meant to assert US strength, have pushed Canada toward America's chief rival. Now, the US must choose. Double down on confrontation, or seek a diplomatic off-ramp to avoid a deeper rift. The risk is clear. A new sphere of Chinese influence could emerge on America's doorstep. The US-Canada trade war is shaking global markets. The sudden disruption of a $700 billion trade relationship is sending shockwaves through international supply chains. Investors and corporations are reassessing North America's stability, causing market volatility and fears of a global slowdown. The IMF and other bodies warn of destabilized value chains and rising costs for manufacturers worldwide. Energy markets are also at risk. Canada's oil and gas exports to the US could be disrupted, impacting global prices. The conflict sets a dangerous precedent. If two close allies can unravel so quickly, no trade relationship is safe. Protectionism may rise as countries seek to shield themselves from similar shocks. The WTO's rules-based system is under threat, risking a more fragmented global economy. The fallout could usher in a colder, more confrontational era of global trade. Experts agree. There are no easy wins, only varying degrees of economic pain. A prolonged trade war could trigger recession in Canada and hurt US border states. Quiet back-channel talks offer hope for de-escalation, aiming for a mutual rollback of tariffs and phased border reopening. But political posturing on both sides makes compromise difficult. The biggest risk: the dispute becomes permanent, hardening the border and decoupling the economies. Canada's pivot to China could fundamentally alter North America's strategic landscape. Yet some see opportunity, a chance to build a more resilient rules-based partnership. The crisis could force both nations to rethink and strengthen their relationship for the future. As November 2025 unfolds, the US-Canada relationship stands at a crossroads. One path leads to de-escalation, suspending tariffs, reopening the border, and rebuilding trust with a new, stronger agreement. The other path is continued escalation, permanent border restrictions, deeper economic separation, and Canada moving closer to China. The consequences would be severe rerouted supply chains, lost investments, and weakened industries. The world's most successful partnership could become a cautionary tale of political miscalculation. The choice is being made now, in quiet negotiations and public statements. The livelihoods of millions and the stability of the continent hang in the balance. Whether the nations reconcile or drift apart will shape North America for decades. The stakes have never been higher. The future of US-Canada relations is uncertain, but its importance is undeniable. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more updates.